How's it going, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me for part 2 in this video series on restoring my Xbox. When we left off at the end of part 1, I had just finished cleaning up all of the electrolytic fluid that had leaked out of the clock capacitor. Now, it's time to clean up all of the case. Let's go through and make sure that we've got a good functioning clean controller, and maybe we'll get a little bit of gameplay footage out of this. So, it's time to fuel up and geek out! Alright, so you can see the exterior of my case is actually fairly scratch-free and everything, but it's filthy as all get out. There's stuff in the fins, there's stuff all over the logo here. So I think the best course of action for this, honestly, is to go give it a good scrub in the sink. So I'm going to take, and let's get these heat shields out of here. Let's take the power supply, the fan out, all of the electronics for the front, and let's go give this thing a proper bath. Okay, so while I am waiting for the Xbox console parts to dry, I'm actually going to start tearing apart these controllers. And one of the reasons that I want to do that is so that when we reassemble everything, we can test it out with clean controllers. Now, when I first bought this system, I actually went through the process of cleaning these things up because they were kind of filthy. And really, I just want to just give them a good clean up. I mean, you see they're covered in spider webs and stuff like that. They've been in storage for a number of years. So before I really dig into it, I'm just going to start with a microfiber cloth, just try to get the majority of this up. And I could probably leave it as is, but I just want to make sure that everything is good on the inside of them. Now, these things have seen some wear and tear. You can see this thumbstick's got a little bit of abrasion on it. I'm not sure if we can order any of those, but I'm definitely going to start looking for it. The only thing really that I have been looking for over the years is the cable for my green controller. So, alright. So let's continue cleaning these up. And I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, you can see there's a little bit of crud on that. So, you know, this black one I may not have cleaned. Let's come to think of it. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and start taking these apart. And I can already feel people making mention of me using the inappropriate screwdriver to take apart the console. I'm going to address this right now. These long silver screws off of the bottom of the unit are Torx T15. However, these little gold screws are Torx T10. You may have noticed that I was using this long screwdriver that is a Torx T15. So, oops, grab that right quick. How was I able to take this out? Well, the ends of this screwdriver have been worn down over the years, and it technically will turn these little screws. But it's not the correct tool. While I was out in the garage, I managed to find the screwdriver set that I've been looking for. And as you can see, it has pretty much every tool that I need to take apart some stuff. Mostly, I just need it for this very good selection of Torx bits. So, I've got a T15 and a T10. We'll need that for the rest of this project. Put that off to the side. And I'm just going to be using this little cheap screwdriver. I think it came from Dollar General. You can hear it's got little bits inside it. So, now for this, I got a feeling that these are probably Phillips heads, probably a PH1. So, let's dig back into this box and see if... Okay, I do have a PH1. Yep, and it fits. Yeah, there we go. And now you can actually see I'm just taking this apart without even needing this. Although, I'll be honest, this is a lot more comfortable. So the last thing that really needs some attention is going to be, let's clean the optical lens in the optical drive. So I have the optical drive here. Now let's go ahead and remove it from the carrier here. And I'm trying to remember how to do that, because again, it has been a long time since I've disassembled one of these. There we go. It's amazing what happens. Alright, so I'm going to grab a couple of swabs. And we're just going to carefully clean that up. I'm just kind of looking at the mechanism and everything. And everything seems to be okay in there. Looks clean. Well, I mean, it's dirty, but I don't see anything. There's nothing rolling around inside there, so. And you want to be very, very careful. Use very, very gentle pressure on this. You don't want a lot of IPA on it. You'll notice my Q-tip just barely has anything on it there. I'm just going in a circular motion. And I'm just making sure that there's no drips or anything on it. And then with the rest of the IPA that I have on this, I'll just go ahead and clean up the rest of the area here. So, alright. So that's completed. And, you know, at some other time I might take and use a little bit of white lithium grease on it. I started using this this year, and I really like it. But I'm not going to do that in this video. Mostly because the video is getting kind of long, and Gunnar has decided to join us. And he has jumped up in the window. So sorry, I'm wrestling with a cat right now. Mostly trying to keep him off my work area. There we go. So let's start a little bit of the reassembly process here. give the top of this drive just a quick dust off here. Okay. So we'll set that off to the side. And let's begin reassembly. You can see this is the bottom unit, and a little dusty from just moving around the house, but you can see it actually cleaned up really, really well. At least I thought it did. I know I scrubbed all of that, but it looks like there's still like a little bit of dust or something back on the back side there, so I'm just going to take a dry swab and just go over that one more time. Now we can begin reassembly. Now, I didn't show it on film, but I did go outside and I used my air compressor to clean up the power supply of the fan, but the fan did not come completely clean. And I'll show you how I deal with that. So we can put this in place. There we go. And now this is how I'm going to deal with this fan. You can see that it still has a little bit. It's nowhere near as dusty as it was, but it still has a little bit of debris on it. So I'm actually just going to take another swab, some IPA on it, and sit here and just clean the fins individually. I'm fairly comfortable with how clean the rest of the fan came with the air compressor, but I'm just gonna, just for completion's sake, clean these fins individually. Okay, so that fan is cleaned up, so let's go ahead and start reassembly, starting with the power supply, which, as you see, cleaned up absolutely beautiful with the air compressor. So let's begin. Okay, so we're going to try this out and see whether or not it works. And I'm going to do this before putting the final screws and everything in, just in case I need to do any troubleshooting. So plug the AV cable in, and let's see here. Alright, so I'm going to plug the AV cable in, and let's actually see whether or not this works before we do anything else now. Yeah, I still have that game off to the side here. But I'm just wanting to see if it actually turns on. So, oh, we have a green light. And yes! So, yes. It's up to the clock screen right now, which I expect because I took out the clock capacitor. But okay. I did have a second camera on the screen to get that, but unfortunately it crapped out right as the Xbox turned on. So, oh well. You have to take my word for it. I'll figure out what's wrong with that camera, and then we'll have it back for the rest of it. So, really, the only thing that is left to do as far as the exterior goes is put the upper shielding back on, and then put the actual case cover back on. So, we've got a working Xbox now. It's clean. I've got that clock capacitor removed from it, and cleaned up the motherboard. So let's go ahead and finish with the controllers. All right, so we have our controller shells and everything cleaned up and dried, at least for the most part. I tried to speed up the process a little bit by putting them outside in the sunlight. So for the most part, everything is all nice and dry and ready to go back together. So we'll take and just pour all of these parts out here. And let's build a couple controllers. So the first one we're going to build is the blue controller. And I'm pretty sure this is the original PCB from that controller. And, the circuit board really doesn't look that bad. You don't really want to mess this up, so I'm probably just going to leave this as is. I've already cleaned off the trigger buttons with some IPA. Once I put it together, we'll clean off the actual cable with some IPA as well. So let's go ahead and get all of these buttons put back into place. The nice thing about the Xbox buttons is each one of these are keyed a certain way. So I kind of let it tell me where they go. Yep. And they just fit right back into place. That way you don't have to try to remember which way they go. So this one, it's the white button, goes in down there, and then, always be sure to have a good grip on them. Okay, so now I have 4 thumbsticks here, and only 2 of them are really in terrific condition. The other 2, the rubber's kind of deteriorated a bit on it, and you can actually see they're kind of sticky, which just tells me that the rubber's deteriorated on them. Now, I haven't found whether or not I can replace these with new ones yet. Just honestly haven't really looked that far into it. So I'm going to try to see if I can replace these with some new ones. Otherwise, I might get some of those thumbstick caps. I actually had some on my Xbox 360 controller. I really liked them. So much I bought a second set for the other Xbox 360 controller, but I don't think either one of those are still on there, on those controllers. So I'm going to look at getting maybe some silicone caps just for the meantime, but I'm going to use the 2 good thumbsticks on this controller because I see this blue controller getting used more than the black controller S. And reason being is at some point I really want to restore my green controller S, and I figure that's the one that I will use the most, and then the caffeinated wife will most likely be using this blue controller. If I remember correctly, I think the blue controller is the one that she used the most whenever we got this Xbox. So, let's see here. Let's clean this up. I do want to hit this with a little bit of IPA. Just to clean the contacts on it. And with this, I'm just going to use my microfiber. Actually, the IPA that I dropped, I'm going to use on here. Oh! Okay. Great tip. Don't get overly aggressive with some of these things, as they might be fragile. Because I just broke this. So this actually changes... Yeah, this changes that. So... yeah. So this is garbage. So let's take the one out of the other controller and see if I can carefully clean it up. Now, it's a good thing that I have an extra controller, so I can salvage the parts out of the green controller to restore this one, or even though I said I wasn't going to do it, I might just go ahead and proceed with a shell swap. That way I've got both the green controller and the blue controller ready to go. But because I know this video is getting really long, I am going to probably not bother rebuilding a second controller right now. We're just going to focus on this blue one. Oops. So first off, we need to put that membrane back in there, and then I need to snap on. And there we go. So let's put the DualShock motors in here, or whatever they're called on. I know they're DualShock on the PlayStation. Rumble on the N64, I believe. I'll put the feedback motors there. And let's reinstall the bottom of the shell. There we go. And now we have a completely cleaned PlayStation, or wow, Xbox controller. So let's go ahead and get the screws put back in. And oh, that's right, I've already put a screw in there. All right, so the last piece of the puzzle is the lid, and I just need to put the shielding back in the lid, which just snaps into place. And then back on the top it goes. I think the lower RF shield deflected a little bit while I had it out of the system. Well, that our cat wound up laying in it. Because this did take 2 days to do. Oh, I see what's going on. This has come unseated. And now that has come unseated. There we go. Alright. Now I'm actually going to use this as a bit of a cushion. And this is T15 screws, so I'll put these back in. Okay. So as you see, actually cleaned up really, really well. A few little scuffs on it, but honestly it just gives it a little character, in my opinion. So let's try firing it up for the first time with everything complete on it, including this rebuilt controller. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it, please let me know in the comment section below. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so and hit the post notification bell so that you can be alerted next time I upload a new project. I've got a lot of stuff planned and I can't wait to show you what I have next. See you on the next video.